Welcome back everyone, Oz here. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.
Ask Reddit. Redditors in hiring positions. What small things immediately make you say no to the potential employee? Why? For phone, Skype interviews, don't Google every single question I asked you to get the right answer. It's a dead giveaway when after every question there's 10 seconds of umming and then a textbook answer. You'll be surprised how often this happens. I did a lot of phone interviewing of programming candidates at my last job. There's nothing like hearing the tickety-tack of a keyboard after each question. Like, holy sh**, get a quiet keyboard if you're gonna do that sh**. The most fun is hearing other voices whispering in the background. I guess it at least shows the candidate is all about teamwork. Showing up late for an interview already puts you in the hole. Not addressing it or apologizing for it will make it complete. Turn a negative into a positive and show you have accountability. Not addressing it shows you don't have respect for me and my time. Much more this than the more upvoted comment saying being late is a deal breaker. I don't care if you're a little late if you're apologetic and seemed embarrassed or regretful when you turn up. That shows me that even though you've met a challenge and made an error, you can be humble about it, apologize, and move forward. I agree, public transport disasters, car breakdowns, etc., they can happen to anybody. It's how you deal with it that counts. I have several times before told the story of a guy who came into my old job with a torn suit and bloodstained shirt to tell our reception he was going to have to miss his interview because he just got hit by a bus outside and would be in the hospital when he was meant to be at his interview. The guy literally hauled himself off the street into the office because his phone broke in the accident and he didn't want the company to think he no-showed the interview. And yes, he was hired for a similar position after he recovered. Talking about your broccoli and chocolate diet to improve your telekinesis. This happened about 15 years ago. Well, I had an interview last Thursday and you tell me now? Great, man. I got a text message response to a voicemail I left responding to an application saying, "Hey, I'm at the Steelers game, so I obviously don't want to talk about a job today. How's Monday looking for you? I'm available 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I didn't even respond. I called an applicant who answered, "Who is this? Fuck you want?" And I went on to further embarrass him by informing him I had wanted to talk about an application, but never mind. He proceeded to tell me I was a lying bitch and that my area code on his collar said I was in a different city and he's no idiot. Literally the neighboring area code. So the small things, I won't hire total assholes. People that show up to an interview in dirty sweatpants and a hoodie or whatever, had no idea what the position really was, pharmacy, tech assistant, it happened more than once. "IDK man, I just want money." Yeah, one guy basically said this. "I don't know, I think the pay would be nice, I guess." Same guy, different gym. When I asked why he had 7 jobs in the past 2 years, he was like, "All those guys were assholes, man." Treating everyone but the hiring manager disrespectfully. I was in a management position in fast food. I didn't do the hiring, but one minor responsibility was accepting applicants that people brought in and answering any initial questions. The hiring manager always listened to the other manager's initial impressions of the applicants. So many applications were thrown out of the stack without ever being considered because the applicant didn't think anyone mattered but the person that made the final decision. I even had one lady come in and basically tell us that she would definitely be hired and be placed over us in management, and that she planned on cleaning up our act. We had a good laugh with the hiring manager before tossing her application in the trash. A bunch of places I worked at had a system where you rated resumes you were handed. Most used smiley faces, frowny faces. If the person was a jerk, you just put a sad face on it after they left. If they were nice, friendly, and professional, you'd smiley face it. One place used a 1 to 5 rating, same idea. If you, the frontline person who took the resume, would want to work with them, you put 5 stars on top of the resume. If you thought they'd be awful to work with, 1 star. It really strongly influenced the decision, to the point that anyone with a sad face or 1 star got the resume thrown out before you had even left the office. I worked as a student assistant in the HR office at the local community college, and it was a weird experience because all job applications were processed exactly the same. Some people would come in all dressed up and be visibly nervous while handing me their application. And my job was just to be like, "Thanks, have a nice day." They always looked so confused and disappointed. If you dropped off your application in a fancy folder, we stripped it down, put all the pages in a certain order, paperclipped it, and added it to the pile. No one who processed the applications was involved in hiring. There was once an opening for a pretty important position, director of something. This older man came in with his suit and tie and fancy portfolio, and he refused to give us, the front desk staff, his application. He wanted someone in charge, and he wasn't particularly nice about it. Finally, our supervisor came out and accepted his application. He shook her hand and tried to make a good impression, and after he left, we just laughed because she had no influence in the hiring process. She was older and worked in the back, so he assumed she was someone important. We had no authority to pass on his application either, so it just got stripped down and added to the rest. It was a good experience to have just to know there are different hiring processes out there, so I don't make a fool out of myself one day. I was hiring. A candidate applied who was perfect on paper. I agreed to interview her at a conference we were both to attend. She was perfect in real life too. Easiest hire decision ever. Then, the next day, I was a few places behind her in a hotel checkout queue. She was being a massive bitch to the clerk about some trivial non-issue, so I didn't hire her. My parents always taught me to treat everyone from the CEO to the janitor the same. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received was, don't piss off the receptionist, they have more clout than you think. I have a small exteriors remodeling company and do all of my interviews on site. If someone gets out of their vehicle and flicks a cigarette in the yard, it's pretty much over. For some reason, people interviewing have regularly looked at all the tools we're using and talked condescendingly about them and explaining they learned on another brand's style and their way is better. Done. I'm open to discussion about other tools and methods, but the interview isn't the place and leads me to believe I'm going to have to work hard to make you use my methods on jobs. Edit for some clarification. Cigarettes. People are trusting us as a business to come to their homes, usually when they are not there. Don't litter in their yard or in their neighborhood. Tools, methods. We are all open to discussion about methods and tools, but talking down to the interviewer is a bad move. There's a difference between making sure we're on the same page and trying to prove you know more than the guy you're trying to get the job from. And it's never about the actual tools. I've done hiring for other businesses before my own. It's about showing a specific attitude. Those guys may do well in the industry, but my business prides itself on bringing positive attitudes to projects for homeowners, and those guys can't help with that. I once had a guy spend the entire interview explaining to me why we were literally doing everything wrong. He was just finishing up his bachelor's degree and had no practical experience. I'm hiring because my business is successful and growing, not because I need some college kid to come in and use his vast knowledge to turn things around. I assume he thought this would show how smart he was. I'm totally open to new ideas and new gear, but you need to show that you're someone whose opinion I should trust. For me, that trust is going to grow over months of you proving yourself, not an interview where you're implying I'm an idiot. He probably took away from his rejection, they were just offended I was so smart. How seriously do you take the position? I hire for an adamantly very easy job. I had a guy tell me he only wanted the job because it was really easy and he wouldn't have to take it seriously. He was one of 100 applying for 6 spots. He didn't get it, and every time he interviewed for that spot after I knew I wouldn't hire him. For those people asking why honesty mattered so much, the job is very easy, but we work with extremely valuable equipment and a mistake can cost us hundreds. Someone who's going for the position openly, not taking it seriously when 100 are going for the same spot, isn't something I want since you'll naturally take the job less seriously over time. Also, I've only interviewed him once a semester. It's totaled maybe 3. In his place, we hired awesome employees who are up for management positions. I have no regrets. I'm amazed at how many candidates lie. Don't do that. The biggest for me was always whether they were responding thoughtfully and specifically to prompts or just using vague interviewee language. Related. If they answer one question in a condescending tone, it's not a good sign. Everyone will hate them and you for hiring them. If they show bad attitude in an interview, wait till they've been on the job for a few months. It tripped me out when I started doing interviewing and hiring for the first time. I had no idea how weird and rude people could be when applying for a job. It gave me a lot more confidence going forward when applying for jobs myself, when I realized just being able to string coherent sentences together on my resume and being a normal, friendly human being in person was putting me ahead of the pack. It's amazing, isn't it? Being on time, hygienic, and basic politeness gets you a lot further than you might think. If you have something on your resume, it's fair game for me to ask you about it. If you struggle with basic questions about it, game over. And for fuck's sakes, if they ask you what's the last book you read, have a safe option at hand. Don't be honest and answer Animal Farm like I did, or the interviewer will turn red and start ranting about communism. And on that note, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more of my AskReddit content, then click the links in the end screen above. Or if you want to see what else my channel has to offer, because I do more than AskReddit stuff, surprise surprise, then check out my actual channel, and if you like what you see, maybe even subscribe.
And no, I don't use text-to-speech.